Well, hey everyone, welcome to your Enneagram Coach, the podcast. I'm Beth McCord and I am with Jeff McCord. And we also have our team, not all of them, but definitely some really key players on the YEC team. And we've got some really fun things for you today. In this episode, we're going to take a dive into a wonderful movie called Encanto. And we're actually doing a series on Pixar and Disney movies and just kind of pulling it apart, whether typing the characters the best that we can or having fun conversations about the themes of that movie. So where do we want to start? Which character?
Finally, there's a movie about a type 9 as the main character.
Yeah. There are other ones. Runaway Bride.
She starts listing them all.
I deeply resonated with Mirabel, and it's interesting because, in the song that she was singing is, she said, "I will stand on the side as you shine." And at first she was like, "I'm fine. I'll stand on the side as you shine." And then you hear her saying, "But I'm not fine. I want to have a special gift. I want a voice. I know I can contribute." And I just feel like that's a lot, my story is the messages inside my head will say, I don't have a voice or my presence doesn't matter. Whether other people believe that or not, that's my type speaking, my less healthy, misaligned type. And then I will try to drown out my own voice or think that others won't really want it. And I'll just make everyone else shine, like you in your career. Like, oh, I'll just have you shine, or my kids, But deep down, I'm like, but I know I have so much to offer. And that's where we as type 9s need to develop ourselves in different ways, like bring out the 3 in us to develop ourselves, and then to actually have the courage with the 6 to actually do it, and the 8 to plow a path for ourselves so that we can plow a path for others.
Now, she also wrestled with this kind of secret lie that maybe things were falling apart because of her. Did you ever feel that way as a 9? Like if you're not able to make everybody happy and things can't be happy unless you can make them happy?
Oh, 100% all the time. Literally all the time. That is like at the core of, I am trying to accommodate. I'm trying to go along to get along. I'm looking at everyone else's desires, agendas, wants, needs, and trying to move towards it, trying to accommodate and help. And if they come back with they're dissatisfied, they're unhappy, they are discouraged, they think it's not good enough, whatever it might be, then I blame myself. And I didn't do it good enough. And if I were a better person or a better wife or a better mom, a better boss, I would have done that better. And therefore, since I can't, I should just disappear and go away. And that's what you see with her on several occasions. She'll try to muster up a lot of courage, like, oh, I think I've got it. I think I know how to fix this, or I know how to help the family. And then she moves in it, and then you see her totally discouraged, especially when she goes and grabs the candle when it's almost out, and she's got it, and then it snuffs out. And she's like, it actually is because of me. I'm the problem. And that's when she vanishes. And I know for me, that happens a lot when the inner critic within me overtakes me, and I not just hear these false messages, but I begin to believe that it's true, and then I disappear. So what type did you guys see Bruno as?
6.
So 6y. Yeah.
So 6y.
He's 6y, and he knows it.
There's definitely a lot of 5-ish characteristics that I saw also come out in him for sure, but and talking, to the family and stuff about it, I could definitely see where 6 resonates. So,
Abby, did you? So I know Nate, so this is why I'm directing at you, because I know what Nate did. But in our family, when Nate would get overwhelmed with the situation, he would get quiet and disappear, and it was heartbreaking.
Move towards his 9.
Yep.
And Abby, was this true for in your family life as well?
Oh, 1,000%. Yes, I was very when people talk about children are supposed to be seen and not heard, I was neither seen nor heard.
Yeah.
So,
which is interesting because a lot of people would put that in the category of, let's say, 9 or 5, right? Withdrawal. But you guys did it for what reason?
Fear.
Okay, fear. And I'm assuming What would be some of the other?
I was describing to someone who is a 6 as well, like why there's so much anxiety around conflict a lot of times. And I think for the 6, I don't know where we're going to be on the other end of this, because we're always gauging people's level of loyalness and loyalty to us. And so when we think about getting into conflict, it's like, are we going to be okay after? Are we going to be the same? Are you going to be as loyal to mending the brokenness of the relationship? So my heart really broke for Bruno, seeing him, like, it's such a 6 thing that he was still in the house.
Right.
But yet he wasn't with everyone else. Like, I feel that. Like,
out of loyalty, out of commitment,
well, and
out of love.
Yeah, the commitment, the love, just how much we care about relationship and being close to our closest people. But I can feel that in that, I remember just our family getting in arguments at the kitchen table, and at that moment, I would have felt just like Bruno. I felt outside of the house, because I felt like I needed to step away because I was going to make things worse. And so I totally understand that.
To accept and live in a relationship that's uncertain than it is to receive, like Nate was saying, rejection, right? So if there's a level of uncertainty and I pull away, then there's always maybe a foot in the door for reunion, possibly. Like that makes sense to me. Whereas if, if this escalates and then there's a sever, then there's a sever. Yeah. And that's terrifying.
Yeah. Well,
I will say in my own life, as I think about what are the reasons why I would withdraw, because even in adulthood, I've noticed this in my life, that whenever there's a trouble in an organization, you've even challenged me about this, I would be the first one to say it's my fault.
Yeah.
And then remove myself from the organization. And it comes from the idea, particularly for me, and why I resonated with that character so much, is that I am too much.
Yeah.
Whether it be my gifting, my insight, my anxiety, my questions, whatever it is, I'm too much. And in order for this thing to move forward, I'm going to need to remove myself. And it wasn't until I remember after seminary, a pastor once telling me we were leaving a church in Kansas City, and it was the day that the leadership decided that I was going to be the one that would need to step down. And I said, I think I'm the reason why this church isn't growing. And he said, hey, Jeff, you're not that powerful. And it totally diffused the 6 way of getting control of life, is that I can account for everything, but I'm also too much in my attempts to do it. And he says, no, you're just not that influential and powerful, which gave great peace to my heart.
Yeah. And it breaks my heart because I think 6s are so great at in being restorative. They see what's broken, they see what could go wrong, but they also have this love and commitment to restore things. And you see that with Bruno, with trying to fix the cracks, behind the scenes. And then for him to, were you gonna say something?
Well, it is interesting to think about, because he was wanting to hide the shards. Do you guys ever find yourself wanting to hide something that you know is to be true?
As 6s?
Abby's smiling a little bit. Like it really can fracture your soul, because you know something to be right, but you won't say it, and you will shove it down as deep as you can. Your body's saying, I can't take this anymore, but you're still trying to do it emotionally.
Because there's self-doubt and there's lack of trust in self.
And
it would perceive as disloyal if you said something.
Sure.
And that's what I saw a lot of, like the stereotype of 6s being able to look into all the different outcomes of something, and people always seeing them as like these negative, pessimistic people, When in reality, like even with his sister's wedding, he could see that she was sweating. And he just pinpointed that, like, hey, I see this. And she spun it into something really bad. And you see that in all these things. And so later on, he says, like, oh, but if I give you a fortune, you're going to blame me for making your goldfish disappear or whatever. And you see Mirabel hold on and be like, no, we're not doing that right now. We're going to keep going, because she saw the value in what he was thinking through and said, like, that's what we need to use. And I think like that portraying as a 6 of his vulnerability and wanting to step away because he's so like fearful of hurting someone else, but having someone say, no, that insight isn't something to be scared of. It's actually very valuable, and I'm going to hold it with honor. Because there's a lot of times that 6s can be suppressed of like, you're just saying something negative, we just got to keep going, or why do you always think worst case scenario, when in reality he helped the family immensely.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. He held the actual future, but because no one wanted to actually look at it, because, when with Mirabel's image, there was the cracks, but then the restored home, there was the both, but people, when they saw the cracks, they wanted to dismiss it completely. But then what we see at the end, and we'll kind of close this up, is that you see Bruno riding on a horse to his mother, the grandmother, and his niece, Mirabel, and saying, I don't care what you think. This is what's true, like to his mother. And of course, she had already transformed within her own heart. So then she just grabbed him and hugged him. So there wasn't any further discussion on that. But you see the courage finally rise up to speak and to do the courageous thing, which is to speak on her behalf. And so I think that's really neat to see that at the end, that not only did he speak his truth and the courage, but you see him being restored to the family unit at the end. Well, then we'll move on to her sister. And so I know that we've kind of had discussions in our YEC Slack community, and I thought this was really fun, and it was really helpful just to hear from the two types that it could look like, and how both types agree that it's not one of them, but it is just one. So basically the two types that were being floated around was type 8, a social 8, and a social 2. And the type 8 was like, heck no, she's not an 8, and here's all the reasons.
Now, Bethy, why don't you share a little bit about that? Because it can be a misunderstanding of an 8. They do actually weep.
Oh,
she talks about feeling weak and vulnerable, that she cries sometimes too.
Yeah.
What were some of the things that you were seeing about her being a potential 8?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think all the things that you had just said, also 8s, they do want to come across strong and protective and plow a path for others. So we see her doing that by gathering the goats on her shoulder and like doing all the things.
Donkeys. They were donkeys.
Oh,
in
our Slack messages, Susie kept saying goats. But they 8s really believe that they are strong enough and capable to do it. And yet, if you were to see her as an 8, what you would want to be looking at is that when she is vulnerable, that's actually what's going on internally for some 8s, whether they're recognizing it or not, that they are weak at times, that they do have vulnerabilities, but they feel that they have to be the strong one for everyone. And so that's why for me, I can see it being a social 8 or a social 2, though I do agree with what my team said that it's probably more social 2, but I think it gives us a picture and a glimpse into how some 8s might feel underneath or inside. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's really helpful. But I think this is a great representation of a type 2, because a lot of people think 2s are 9s. They're like, oh, 2s are really quiet and they're docile. And I'm like, no, they're very strong people, very strong. And their pride goes before them. So a big difference between a 2 and a 9, we kind of alluded to this earlier, is that they might both see a problem. So like Mirabel sees the cracks and feels there's something going on, and she's still investigating. She's still trying to figure it out, but she's not moving in to fix it. She's not grabbing the spackle and making sure that all the cracks, she's trying to figure out what's going on. How can I bring this all together? Whereas a 2 is like, no, I'm going to fix it now, and here I come. And they're very determined and feel very confident that they know exactly what needs to take place, and they're going to fix it. And that's, Libby, what you were saying, is just overconfidence in that pride. And what they need is actually humility. And that humility can come in to see, oh, I can't do it all, and I'm not even asked to do it all. And I think that's what 8s represent in a good way, is they delegate. And the 2s need to learn the power of delegation so they can make sure things are done and done well and helpful for others, but that they're not at the expense of getting things done well, that they too can rest and get nurtured. And I think that that's really hard for 2. Would you guys agree, to have that humility to delegate? And that's where I think the whole movie comes in. In the end, it's so beautiful because they sing a song and you see them all in this healthy, aligned place with their gifts. Luisa, with her being strong, she like holds up the plant, but the family's like, and they kick her into a hammock. Like, yes, we want your strength, but we also need you to rest, And so you see at the end, the family enjoying and embracing everyone's giftedness, but also from a place of health and restoration. Yeah. So we all will sabotage ourselves and go against the very thing we're wanting when we aren't seeing it, when we're not willing to notice where our heart is and to be able to press through and to do the hard work. But you see each of these characters transition towards the end into a very beautiful state. Thank you guys so much. And we'd love to hear from you. Like, what were your thoughts on the characters and their types? We didn't get through all of them, but I think we covered quite a bit.
Covered the main ones. That's good.
And so if you haven't seen the movie, go see it, and we will talk to you in the next episode on either Pixar or Disney characters.